Join the conversation. Follow Jason on Twitter. And don't forget to visit the live show fan page on Facebook.
All right, everybody. So here's Betsy DeVos. She's trying to be the next education secretary of the US of A. And I will preface my comments here in a moment by simply saying that I have no idea whether Betsy DeVos would be a good secretary of the education or not. I don't know if she's qualified. And frankly, I don't really care because I don't think the government's got any business being in charge of our education anyway. The thing that progressives seem to have a problem with is that she is very much pro-choice and anti-Department of Education, which I find
to me that sounds like she's perfectly
humorous,
qualified.
and perfectly makes her perfectly qualified. If she intends to dismantle the education program that the government has put into place, if she intends to destroy the power base of education in the federal government, then I think she is absolutely the right pick, whether she's good at it or not, because I don't care if she badly destroys education at the federal level. I think that nothing but good things can come of that. Because the government has done just an absolutely atrocious job of being in charge of our education. And it's no wonder that the founders of this country did not give that authority and vest it in the federal government. But I want you to listen for a moment. We will start with, let's start with Elizabeth Warren, Darren.
All right.
Elizabeth Warren is attempting to chastise Ms. DeVos because she's a very wealthy woman. She comes from a very wealthy family. Her family has given hundreds of millions of dollars to Republican campaigns. And she is concerned, Elizabeth, with whether or not she's really qualified to run the types of programs that they have there at the Department of Education. Here's what she had to say.
The Department of Education is in charge of making sure that the $150 billion that we invest in students each year gets into the right hands, and that students have the support they need to be able to pay back their student loans. The Secretary of Education is essentially responsible for managing a $1 trillion student loan bank and distributing $30 billion in Pell Grants to students each year. The financial futures of an entire generation of young people depend on your department getting that right. Now, Mrs. DeVos, do you have any direct experience in running a bank?
Senator, I do not.
Have you ever managed or overseen a $1 trillion loan program?
I have not.
How about a $1 billion loan program?
I have not.
Okay, so no experience in managing a program like this.
So, have you ever run a $1 billion loan program? Have you ever run a bank? Have you ever been in charge of a bank? Every time I hear it, it makes me angry. I pray to God one day I get to sit on one of these panels. I would annihilate them. Here's the thing. They can't prevent her from going before and being nominated. They don't have enough seats to prevent DeVos from getting to a Senate vote. All they can do is stand up there, and this is all they use this time to stand up there and talk about their own stuff and get on the record so that they've got something to tweet out to all of their followers. And Elizabeth Warren is this dirty, scummy, wretched politician, the likes of which you don't see much in Washington. And here's a woman, she rails against greed in America and the greedy business owners and women like DeVos who grew up rich, silver spoon in their mouth, and now think that they're entitled to come and be in charge of the Department of Education. And what she's trying to do is show that Ms. DeVos doesn't have any experience at all to do anything. Let me address the greed issue first. Ms. Warren, this is the way I would answer it. She said, do you have any experience running a bank? No, but now that you mention it, let's talk about a few things. Can you point to me in the Constitution that enumerated power that gives you the authority to have a bank that executes this function? Oh, you don't? You can't? Wow, that's interesting. Why do we have a program like that? Why are you in favor of an unconstitutional program to do that? As to my experience, how about we talk about the TARP program, with which you were vested when overseeing after 2008? Let's talk about the $464 billion that vaporized, that you were responsible for knowing about. Where'd that money go? Did you have any experience in running a $1 trillion TARP program? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Let's continue. Let's go on to the Department of Education in general. Can you point to me that enumerated power that gives you the authority to tell the states and dictate to them what type of education programs they're going to have? Oh, you don't. Well, then how about we start with removing the gigantic plank out of your own eye before you move on to looking at the speck in mine. And as to the hypocrisy of you standing up there or sitting up there, I guess, and bloviating about all the terrible things that rich people do, let us not forget that you earned $400,000 in 2011 for teaching a single class at Harvard University. You also, in that same year, earned $120,000 in consulting fees. Now, who were you consulting with? It wasn't the private sector. Oh, no. That would make far too much sense. No, you were consulting for government agencies. So not only did you go to Harvard and get paid far more than anyone with your qualifications should ever be paid for anything, but then you also fleeced the American people for an additional $120,000 in consulting fees, while you were losing $436 billion in TARP funds.
That right there is the correct answer.
That's the way I would answer it.
Give or take a couple words.
Yeah. But I'll never get the chance. So then we move on to Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders gets his chance to talk a little bit about free education. He said the following.
Some of us believe that we should make public colleges and universities tuition free so that every young person in this country, regardless of income, does have that option. That's not the case today. Will you work with me and others to make public colleges and universities tuition-free through federal and state efforts?
Well, Senator, I think that's a really interesting idea, but I think we also have to consider the fact that there's nothing in life that's truly free.
My question is, should we make public colleges and universities tuition-free so that every family in America, regardless of income, will have the ability to have their kids get a higher education? That was my question.
Senator, I think we can work together, and we could work hard on making sure that college or higher education in some form is affordable for all young people that want to pursue it. And I would look forward to that opportunity if confirmed.
That's one way you can do it. That's the polite way, doing the right thing. Not coming off as being too extremist. I, of course, would have answered it very differently. I would have said, let's talk about that, Bernie. Let's talk about what free is, because you love to throw this word free around when, in fact, there's nothing free in America. And what you really want to do is you want to tax wealthy people and force them to pay for somebody else's education, don't you? Well, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. Okay, well, let's talk about the massive increase in the cost of going to college over the last 30 years. Let's find out this bastion of liberal think tank that you guys have, this a castle on a hill that you call a university, where you indoctrinate all these young minds of mush. Why do you think that tuition costs have increased tenfold over the last 10 years? Why do you think it's growing faster than healthcare? Let me share with you why. It's because of morons like you. And let's go back to Elizabeth Warren. How about the $1 trillion banking program that you guys are running, where you're handing out tons of free cash backed by the government that colleges then use to raise their tuition costs? Maybe that's what's causing the problem. Maybe the problem with education today, higher education specifically, has nothing to do with the fact that poor people can't get an education, and has more to do with the fact that you have priced them out of the market with your left-wing socialist crap. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you're the problem. In fact, we all know you're the problem. So why don't we discuss that for a minute? There's no excuse for allowing this stuff to slide. You do not have to sit and be berated by a couple of I can't use the word on the show. You don't have to sit back and take it from these people. They have no moral or intellectual superiority. They're all self-righteous, egotistical hacks.